that's all about.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome back. I would like to talk a little bit about the savings plan today, just kind of what it is, maybe sometimes what it isn't, who all is involved with the savings plan, sometimes behind the scenes, what qualifying events people can have to have access to their money, the distribution options once they've had qualifying events, and then just kind of go through a distribution form. I know sometimes you guys get asked questions on about those distribution forms, maybe from employees that are getting ready to leave, or if they've already left and they'll come back and visit the county sometimes with questions. So we'll jump right into it. So what is it? It goes by many names. My screen isn't working today. This was always working. Try this. It does go by many names. You can call it a defined contribution plan. You can call it deferred comp. You can call it a DC plan. You can call it the savings plan. You can call it the 457 and 401A. But a lot of people relate to it as a government version of a 401K. And that just means an employee is allowed to put pre-tax contributions to be set aside for retirement, and that is funded through payroll. So who all is involved in the savings plan besides you guys, of course, and CERF eligible employees at the counties? I'm involved as plan administrator. That means I sign distribution forms, death claim forms, incoming rollovers, hardships, required minimum distributions. I sign a whole lot of forms and fax them to Empower's home office. And then when I'm not available, Jim Ellison here, who you all know, acts as my backup. And then for Empower Retirement or Great West, I'll use those names interchangeably. They're the same folks. But the home office is located in Denver. And there's a whole lot of folks there that do the record keeping. They deal with the money. They provide the statements. They produce they actually make the forms that are used for the savings plan. They'll do marketing pieces. They have legal and compliance there. So there's a whole lot of people out in Denver that deal with a whole lot of plans and a whole lot of, different employees. Certainly not just CERF. So they're, deal with plans nationwide. But on the local level, we have Robert Eastburn, who replaced Jim with Empower. He goes around to all the counties. He does group visits, group presentations, individual meetings, and his primary focus is going to be education. He'll be signing up a lot of people with the plan. He may help them change their beneficiaries. He may help them fill out paperwork to change their amounts that they're contributing to the 457 plan. So he's the road warrior. He goes around to visit all you guys. So feel free to give him a call if you would like a visit. And then in the St. Louis office for Empower, there's Connie Reddick and Mary Fafaro. They kind of provide administrative support for Robert. And then Connie is also a very good resource for folks, for the counties that would like to sign up for the Plan Service Center or have any questions about that, the electronic processing. Okay, so qualifying events, or when can I get my money? Most common one is separation from service from the county. When somebody leaves the county employment, they're going to have some options. They may have access to this money. Retirement, of course, and then one little tidbit, if somebody's 59 and a half and they're still working for the county, they can actually do an in-service withdrawal while they're still working for the county. Some folks don't know that, but that is an option. And then on the 457 side, if you're still working, you have to be 70 and a half to get an in-service withdrawal. And then on a special case-by-case basis, there are hardship applications. And the most common thing that gets accepted for that would be medical bills not covered by insurance with no other way to pay for it. But that's not an application we put on the website. Like I said, that one's strictly case-by-case. But that's, the medical bills is really the most common thing I see. So distribution options. After an employee has had a qualifying event, what can they do with their money? Cashing out on a lump sum basis is always an option. Once they reach $200, they have the option to roll that over into an IRA or new employer plan. Once they get to $1,000 in a particular account, they can leave the money there. They don't have to do anything with it. They can leave that money invested, and they, it's not going to be locked in. It's liquid for them. They can do something any time, but they still control the money investment-wise. They just can't make any more contributions after they leave the county. And then once they reach $5,000, they've got some more options. They can do a partial withdrawal, or they can set it up for periodic payments. And then periodic payments, the employee selects how often they want to receive the money and how much they want to receive each time they receive money. So they can set it up for $300 a month or whatever the case may be, and then that payment just continues until their balance is depleted. And then there's also the RMD. If an employee just wants to postpone receiving that money and postpone that money being taxed as long as they possibly can, then they're going to wait until they're age 70 and a half, and at that point the IRS says you have to start taking some distributions, and Uncle Sam gets in your pocket. So what's the difference between a 457 and a 401A is a pretty common question I get. The employee voluntary contributions go into the 457 plan. Match money from CERF goes into the 401A, and it's based upon what they contributed to the 457. And also into the 401A for non-loggers employees only, there is a mandatory 0.7% contribution. Now, the 457 and the 401A have a little bit different tax rules. The 457 plan, there's no early withdrawal penalty. Doesn't matter what age you are. If you've had a qualifying event and you cash out 457 money, there's not going to be a 10% penalty for early withdrawal prior to age 59 and a half, like there is on 401As, 401Ks, and IRAs. But that provision is there, on the match money and the 0.7 if they cash out their 401A prior to age 59 and a half. So before we start going through the distribution form, is there any questions? Okay.
Might mention the match continues this year.
Yep. Had a lot of interest from the match postcard. Had several calls saying, hey, I should probably sign up for this. So as far as the distribution form goes, one of the most common questions I get is right off the top, what's account extension? That's 99.9% of the time you can leave that blank because that deals with death transfers. And then division location, that's just your county name, and if you know your county CERF number, also write that in. And then also, you see another area circled there where it says country of residence. A whole lot of folks read that as county of residence, which is real easy to do. But then on section B of the distribution form, the separation from employment or retirement date, that is the last day that the county employee worked. And then under section C, there's a space for effective date, but that is only if an employee is wanting to postpone receiving their money for some reason. So maybe they want to get their paperwork in, but they don't want to receive it until later in the year, or whatever the case may be. I hardly ever see that used, but that's what it's for. Most of the time, that's going to be blank. And then further on section C, if someone is doing a rollover, they will need to mark the box that says rollover to an IRA or eligible retirement plan, and then mark the type of plan they're rolling to. It's not the type they're rolling from, it's the type they're rolling to. So very common to see folks roll over to a traditional IRA and mark 100%, they want the whole balance rolled into that. We talked about periodic payments earlier. There's a section for that. If somebody's wanting a new periodic installment payment, they mark that box. Then they go in and fill out the spot where have to put a date for their first payment, whether it's, July 15th or whatever. And then the frequency, whether it's monthly, quarterly, twice a year, or annually. And then they can go amount certain, which is the most common, $500 a month or whatever. Or they can also do period certain if they want it spread out over a certain number of years. And then section D, not shown on the screen, is where the rollover information is provided. And that would be the accepting IRA provider or the accepting new plan. So oftentimes the IRA provider will help the employee fill that portion out. And then in section E is distribution options as far as delivery. And the most common is check by U.S. Postal Service. That option doesn't cost anything. It's a little bit slower, of course, but that is the easiest. They can also do check by express delivery. I don't think it's a very good deal because it's $25 to save a person a few days, but that is an option. And then there's direct deposit. If a person's getting periodic payments, then direct deposit there's no additional fee for that. If it's just a one-time direct deposit payment, there is a $15 charge from Empower. Now, in regard to direct deposits, they have to send in a voided check, and they have to get their form notarized. And I should say on the voided check, the address on their voided check needs to match their address of record, or Empower's probably going to kick it out. So kind of a lot of hoops for direct deposits if it's just a one-time thing. But we want to make you aware of those, the ins and outs of those. Okay, in regard to taxes, it's section F on a separation from service withdrawal request. Federal tax is withheld automatically at the rate of 20%. Now, some people don't understand that, and they might write in 20% on their form, but that means 40% is going to be withheld from their distribution, and that may not be what they want. So, a lot of the time, the federal side is left blank because 20% is more than enough for most folks. But if they want an additional 5%, 10%, or a flat dollar amount, they can do that. State income tax is just the opposite. Empower does not withhold state income tax unless the employee tells them to on this form. And the last option there is the one they would use that says, I would like state income tax withheld - optional state income tax withholding. And the most common number is 6%. They can choose any number they want, but that's kind of the unwritten standard. So then moving on to section G, that's where the employee signs, where it says my signature. They have to date it. There's a notary section, but like I said, that notary comes into play if the employee has a different address of record. They've very recently moved, or they're getting ready to move and they want it mailed to a new address, or if they're doing direct deposit. If nothing's changed with their address and they're not doing direct deposit, then a notary is not required on these forms. And then on the 401A forms, I'll fill in the vesting, and then I will sign as authorized plan administrator. And I know that can be confusing because sometimes you guys are authorized administrators, but on distribution forms for separation from service withdrawal forms for the 457 and 401A, those are documents that I have to sign. So where should these forms be sent? Couple options here. You can send them directly to the CERF office here, and I will get them, and that's really the quickest way. And then the other option is to send them to the St. Louis office of Empower, and they would ideally check them over and then forward to me right away. What we see sometimes, and it's kind of the way the forms are designed, these are Empower forms. So they don't put our fax number on there, they put theirs. And they list St. Louis first, and then after that, they list the Denver information. And that slows it down. So ultimately it goes to Denver, but if it doesn't have my signature, they're not going to do anything with it. It just kind of gets into their process, and eventually they forward it to me, but it does slow it down. So either send it to the CERF office here or send it to the St. Louis office, whichever is easy for you guys. I know enrollment forms and beneficiary forms you're sending into St. Louis. And if you want to send them the distribution forms as well for the 457 and 401A, that's perfectly fine. If it makes more sense to you or it's easy for you to send them directly here, that's great too. So what's the timeline for employees receiving their money? First off, they have to be off payroll for 30 days. That's to make sure they've had a true break in service, and that's to make sure, we want to make sure all the contributions get posted. So that allows time for that. And of course, they have to be terminated in cars, and along with being gone 30 days. And then after that, I can sign off on the form and fax it to the Empower Denver office. And they pretty quickly will process their payments. And, if it's a regular check, they should arrive in, 7 to 10 business days coming from Denver. So that's a lot of information in a short amount of time while you're eating. Any questions on the savings plan at all?
I have a question, and
yes.
It's kind of a, okay, you're putting in your total 6%.
Okay.
And CERF is going to match 3%.
Yes.
Okay. What if you want to put in more than 6%? What does that
do? The question is, what if you want to put in more than 6%, and that relates in relation to the match, correct? Uh-huh. And the answer is you're welcome to put more than 6% into the 457 plan. But it does not affect your match. Anything above 6% just doesn't get matched. So, it's 50 cents on the dollar up to 6%, and after that, it's if you're wanting to contribute more, great. But that's the most CERF can match.
But then you can't pull it out till you're 70.5, did you say?
Or separate service from the county.
Okay.
The 70.5 was while you're still employed.
Okay.
Or you separate service, retire, or, have an unforeseeable emerging type hardship. But yes, it is, they are retirement accounts. It's not like putting money in a passbook savings account where you can just pull money in and out. But it is a great program to supplement your retirement for sure.
Once they've been off the payroll for 30 days, then do you typically get those signed pretty quick?
The question is, do I sign the distribution forms pretty quickly once they've been gone for 30 days? And the answer is absolutely. I keep them in files chronologically. So once we hit 31 days, I'm faxing them to Denver. If I'm gone, I'll ask Jim to fax them for me. So yeah, that's definitely a priority because, you know, when it comes to money, folks want it quickly, as quick as they can.
If someone is still employed and they turn 70 and a half, do you guys automatically contact them? Or is it up to them? Because what if they forget or don't know?
The question is, do we automatically contact employees once they turn 70 and a half, if they're still employed? The answer is no. I wouldn't contact them if they, you know, if they want to receive money, if they want to do an in-service withdrawal, you know, they would have to let us know. Those forms are available on the website. You know, they can call anytime, you know, to know what their options are. But you know, the same would apply for on the 401A side once people turn 59 and a half. But no, we don't contact folks every time they, you know, might hit a qualifying event.
Were you asking about the required minimum distribution also?
Well, just the minimum age was 70 and a half. So.
For an in-service withdrawal, yeah. And then,
Is it up to the county, is it up to the county to notify them at 70 and a half if they're still working, that they're going to have to start taking?
okay, let me go back. The question was, is it up to the county to notify them once they turn age 70 and a half? So there's two questions at play here. One, at age 70 and a half, if they're still working, they can withdraw money with an in-service withdrawal. And no, the county doesn't have to tell them that. You know, not that we don't want them to know, it's just not something you would have to do. The other issue is if they've left county employment at age 70 and a half, they have to start withdrawing if they haven't already with the required minimum distribution.
That was kind of my question. I guess
Okay.
I didn't realize it was the answer. So that you guys contact them then?
Yes.
Okay.
If they're not working for the county anymore, then they are contacted by Empower or myself if Empower's contact isn't working, that they have to withdraw money from the 457 401A plans due to the required minimum distribution rules. Any other questions?
Now, I have some part-timers that are in the 0.7% that doesn't have to do they're non-loggers.
Okay.
And I seem to have quite a big of a turnover there. Should I automatically give them those, because I usually never see them again. I delete them from the report. But should I give them that form to fill out to get that money back? Should that be an automatic thing, or are you guys going to contact them?
The question is, if an employee leaves, and I think she's mostly talking about short-term type employees that have done the 0.7% mandatory deduction, should you give them distribution forms? And I would say yes. If you see them, yes. Now, realizing, depending upon their options, if they got over $1,000, they don't have to take the money out. But if you know they've got less than that, they've only been working for a few months, then yes, by all means, give them a distribution form, a 401A separation from service withdrawal request. Down the line, if they've still got a balance out there, I'll go looking for them, and be encouraging them to do something with their money, or in many cases I'll kick them out.
And a lot of the time, they work full-time for another county.
Okay.
And they're working part-time for us.
So
they're already part of CERF.
In that case, if someone's still working for another county, but they leave your county, then, you wouldn't have to give them a distribution form.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. I think you get about 15 more seconds to digest, and then they're gonna send you to do some more work.
Yeah. Thanks, Richard. You have to have about 5 minutes. You want to finish eating this trash can back here for your plate, and then your benefits or account specialist will come and get you and escort you back to their office. You guys are welcome to leave whatever you want in here, and you can come back afterwards and get it. And also, don't forget about those enrollment packets in the back. So, thank you for your attention this morning, and hopefully we'll see you again next time.
Thank you. Thank you.